Good afternoon, MFHL fans. Welcome into this edition of the MFHL podcast. It's been a while. I know that we've been busy on the grind broadcasting playoff hockey in this league also, as well as the MMJHL, as we will be broadcasting Game 5 of the Riels for Gary Twins Series St. Boniface Riels. That is Game 5 at Southdale Community Center tonight. Should be a lot of fun. This should be a lot of fun, though. The MFHL podcast returning for episode 16, and this one is, of course, brought to you by, as always, Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools, your one-stop shop for all your industrial needs. Visit their store locations in Brandon and Winnipeg today, as well as check out their website at midcanadafasteners.shop for more details on what they offer. Also, Terrico serving Manitoba producers for over 8 years in the agricultural industry. Be sure to check out their website at terrico.ca to learn more about them, and to Goaltenders, your goalie's personal video review service. Be sure to check out their website at gordytummelsongoalies.ca for more information on what they do, which is basically a one-on-one goaltending coaching video service, which is pretty cool. But yeah, as for this edition of the MFHL podcast, we're going to be running you through just about everything that's happened up until this point in the MFHL playoffs. And to start things off, we're going to hit you with the transition, because it's going to be a lot of me on the screen, a lot of visuals, though, in this episode on this Sunday. Going to be a lot of fun. No guests joining me for this episode, but planning to have guests on for episode 17, which will be coming this Wednesday night. Yeah, let's get into it, shall we? Episode 16 of the MFHL podcast, starting up right now. You know, sometimes disregard things I say like that. The start of the MFHL podcast coming up right now. We've already started it 4 minutes and 40 seconds in up until this point. But of course, we're brought to you by Mid-Canada Fasteners and Tools, Terrico, and Goaltenders. We're going to start with Mid-Canada Fasteners on the screen. Actually, all of these brands on the screen as we show you the updated 2024 playoff bracket, the road to the SO Cup. It's almost near its end, as it's going to be part 3 of the finals from the previous 2 seasons. The Winnipeg Ice taking on the Westman Wildcats. Last season it was Westman who had the number 1 seed. The Ice had the 2nd seed, but that didn't matter too much, as the Ice ended up sweeping Westman in the finals. The Wildcats, of course, looking to have things go the other way this time around. They've been great throughout these playoffs. So have the Winnipeg Ice. The Ice have yet to drop a game, I believe, in the past 2 playoff seasons, postseasons that is, up until this point. Phenomenal run they've been on, 6-0. Swept a very good, experienced Yellowhead Chiefs team, of course, who had to battle back themselves down 2-0 in round 1. To come back down 2-0 against the Avros this time around. The Chiefs just didn't have it against a fantastic Winnipeg Ice team to be able to come back from down 2-0. As for the Westman Wildcats, they ended up losing their first game of the season to the Eastman Selects in Game 2, but then Westman came back with maybe their strongest game of the playoffs in Game number 3, and then finished things off, of course, we'll show you in just a moment here, but with 2 shutout victories in that series to put the Selects season to bed. The Selects with one of the best stories, honestly, in the MFHL this season, finishing with a really good record at 19-7-2, the same as the Westman Wildcats, but it was just one of those teams this season that Westman had Eastman's number, and in terms of, well, we'll look at, Westman's stats first here. Their game log against the Eastman Selects, 2 shutouts to end off there. In Game 1, it was actually no even strength goals scored. They were all on special teams. Of course, that changed on Game 2, but still Eastman had 2 power play goals in that one. Westman, as you'll see, also had 2 power play goals in Game number 3. So, yeah, we'll have highlights of that in just a moment here. But as for the Winnipeg Ice, their semifinals results, looking at it, it was a close game through the first 2 games of the series. But, I mean, the start has been what's kind of haunted Yellowhead throughout these playoffs. They got down to start off in back-to-back games against the Ice, and look, they fought back. They brought it to overtime in game number one, having a strong third period. They became the first team to score on the ice in these playoffs since Winnipeg ended up shutting out Central Plains 3 games in a row. But yeah, getting fantastic goaltending from Laura Melissa for her to grab her third shutout of the postseason up until this point. We'll show you her stats in just a moment here coming up. They've been phenomenal so far in these playoffs for the Ice. But yeah, got off to a quick start again in that game three, and the travel time as well. Shoal Lake having to come all the way into Winnipeg, playing in a really cold rink too. In Southdale East, I'm not sure if that had any effect on it, but yeah, Winnipeg just too strong for them, proving that in that series. You know what? We're going to take another transition, and then I'll be back next up here for some highlights from around the MFHL. You're watching the MFHL podcast for episode 16, brought to you by Mechanic Fasteners and Tools, Terrico, and Goaltenders. More to come here after this transition coming up, everybody. Well, welcome back to the MFHL podcast, everybody. Hope you're enjoying it up until this point. This is going to be a short edition of the show. We don't have any guests on. I simply just wanted to do this to update everybody with what's been going down here in the best female hockey league for U18s in the province of Manitoba. It's been a lot of fun so far, though, just going through the bracket and the results of these teams through the semifinals. And unfortunately for us at G Show Productions, we weren't able to broadcast the Winnipeg Ice series. It just didn't line up with our schedule very well. Broadcasting the MMJHL playoffs, of course, that created some complications and things. But don't worry, we'll be broadcasting games 1 and 3 of that championship series coming up here in Winnipeg, Manitoba at the Hockey for All Center. Who knows, we might even see a game 5 in that series. But as for how the Westman Wildcats ended up getting to the finals for a third straight season, their fourth appearance in the last 5 seasons of MFHL hockey. Well, G-Show Productions didn't forget about them and the Eastman Selects. These two battling against each other in what, had the makings of being a really close competitive series, and it was just that. Outside from, you know, 2 of the games where Eastman won by 3 goals and then Westman ended up winning by 4 with a shutout. Like, these were 1 goal, 2 goal games in this series, and yeah, it was fantastic hockey to watch, and happy that we were able to bring you guys coverage of it. We start off with game 2 of the semifinal series now, where Eastman was looking for their first win of the season in general against Westman. Westman took game 1, improving to 5-0 against them in total. They won the season series 4-0. That was the reason why Westman ended up getting second over Eastman, was because of that tiebreak. But something had to give, and at some point, especially for a team as good as Eastman, they weren't going to lose a 6th straight, no doubt about it. As we head into that game, Isabella Carrier with a beautiful dangle to beat wins leader Danica Averill in the MFHL regular season for wins by goalies. That would extend the lead to 2-0. Of course, Eastman opened up scoring in that first period. Into the third period, though, where Eastman working this puck around on the power play. It would be Adeline Nolgren from the point, feeding a shot through some traffic to beat Averill to extend the lead to 3-0 for Eastman. But they weren't done there on the power play. A little bit later in the period, Eastman going to work down low, getting this puck to Hepner. Her shot ends up being saved, but gets it back off of a pass from Sophia Heidinger. Feeds number 19, as Eastman would add back-to-back power play goals to end up leading themselves to a 4-0 lead at the time. Westman, it would be Ivy Perkin who would add in a goal to break Addison Tome's potential shutout for that matchup. But yeah, a really strong game for the Eastman Selects, where they ended up getting outshot by quite a bit, 35 to, let's see here, 17, or 35 to 21 were the shots against. Danica Averill got pulled in that matchup, which ended up giving the start to Kylie Hack in the next game. She took over for the last 10 minutes of that one in that game against the Eastman Selects, of course, in that game 3. And Hack, along with this Westman Wildcats team, was looking for a huge bounce back in a crucial game 3 with the series going back to Niverville regardless for the game 4 at the time. Hartney has been rumored, and I think those rumors are confirmed now that I've been there, to be one of the toughest places to play. It was a huge travel day for ourselves over at G-Show Productions. Eastman didn't end up having enough seats on the bus, so had to drive out myself. Was a long one, a long bus drive for Eastman, and something that Westman seemed to really take advantage of in that game 3 victory. As we head over to it, early on in the first period, of course, in game 3, it gets sent down to Ivy Perkin, and the second leading goal scorer, rookie leading goal scorer, ends up scoring her second playoff goal in as many games, of course, scoring the one goal Westman had in game number 1. Moving over to the second period now, where it would be Erica Stutzky, who would overpower Addison Tomes with a shot, and Westman wasn't done there on the power play in that period.
She works it along the perimeter, now across to Stutzky, the latest goal scorer in this game, back across to Hillhorst, her shot, 3 scores!
Callie Hillhorst getting on the board herself in this matchup. An accurate shot through traffic. Westman would take a 3-0 lead into that third and final period, and Carlin Goods would score the empty netter to extend the lead to 4-0 for Westman to end up taking a 2-1 series lead. And in that one, it just seemed like Eastman, they couldn't find their groove in terms of their transition game. Westman played a very good game in terms of how they were pressuring the Selects, how they were covering through transition in the neutral zone. Didn't give them really an inch coming down on the attack, on the rush. It was mostly Eastman dumping it in and trying to get on the forecheck to set things up in that one. And Westman, a phenomenal game. Kylie Hack with the shutout in her first career playoff game. And, pretty special for number 1 there. The goalie that was, looked at to be the backup, coming up huge in that game 3 victory for Westman. But I feel like the reason Franklin did that was because it was on a back-to-back, and why not ride with Kylie Hack, both of these goaltenders being rookies, and giving Danica Averill kind of a mental reset, because she is going to be relied upon heavily throughout the future rounds, which is the finals for this team. And hey, Franklin, it seemed like his strategy worked out, because Averill ends up playing back in game number 4, and she was on her game. Addison Tomes was as well. It was a low-scoring game 4, and it was Eastman's season on the line with Westman, a trip to a third straight final, 4th in 5 years on the line for themselves. Let's start off with Kelsey Hybers taking a pass off of the breakout. A beautiful dangle ends up getting through somehow. Rebound ended up being created that couldn't be cleared away by Eastman, putting it in the net for Westman to start off the scoring. I believe it was Ivy Perkin in that one. Yes, Ivy Perkin who gets it. But Addison Tomes was big time in this game, made a bunch of huge saves in game number 4, but maybe none bigger than that one. Sticking out that right leg to rob the Westman Wildcats one of her many highlight reel saves. And it would be Eastman who ends up trying to create pressure, but here would be the final moments of the series.
that right side, but disrupted. 39 seconds remain now in this contest. It's down low to Fast, up to the point to Nolgren. Her shot blocked, and oh, here goes a Westman Wildcat. Who's it going to be? Marley Rutherford says goodnight. See you later. Eastman, Westman will be playing for a chance for their second championship.
It would be Marley Rutherford putting it in the empty net for the Westman Wildcats with 26 seconds remaining on the clock to send Westman to their third straight final. Addison Tomes, I mean, she was fantastic in that one. Really great stuff. It doesn't have the goaltending stats on for the Eastman Selects on this side. Danica Averill bouncing back beautifully from that Game 2 loss when she got pulled. 28 saves on 28 shots against. Yeah, I mean, Westman, I think, just proved throughout this series that they truly just were the better team. I do think that Eastman had a lot of time where they were outplaying Westman in that Game 4, right? They controlled play throughout that second period. They got some huge saves in period number 3 and then started to get some more offensive zone chances as things went along. It's just they couldn't capitalize on their opportunities where, even though you're a top 3 defensive team like the Westman Wildcats are, there's levels to it. And Westman, had the second highest scoring offense in the league, and Eastman, they raised their numbers as the season went along. Players stepped up, and players on that team have a bright future, right? A lot of them. One in particular, Isabella Carrier, who she's going to be just really fun to watch to see how her career develops in this league if she chooses to stay in the MFHL, right? Some of these players could be looking at maybe other options down the line. But I feel like Eastman, they're going to come back, the group that they have. The bond, I think, has been built there. It was a special season for them. It's just, when it mattered the most, they couldn't get the offense going. They couldn't capitalize on those opportunities they had. Couldn't quite make that final pass necessary, the final play, that final good shot to execute truly against a really good Westman Wildcats team where we saw their systems really take over in game number 3. This team bounced back after their first loss against the Eastman Selects. How would they respond? They responded really well, playing really good in front of a backup goaltender, and I think that move just spoke to the confidence Franklin had in his team, and his team responded. Westman is going to be a really tough out for the Winnipeg Ice as they look to defend the title. It's part 3 of that series coming up for the finals for, of course, the third straight year, hence the reason why it's part 3. But yeah, I'll be back to show some statistics from the leaders in the MFHL in points, goals, assists, as well as goaltending leaders, and also going to be showing you guys the stats comparables between the Winnipeg Ice and the Westman Wildcats as we take a first look into that championship series. You are watching the MFHL podcast here on G Show Productions. We will be back for more after this quick transition coming up. Okay, that was not what we wanted to show, but welcome back, everybody. As you saw there, a clip of a highlight. Just went through some highlights in this edition of the MFHL podcast for round 2, and what a round it was. A really exciting, entertaining series between, two of the top 3 teams in the MFHL battling at it. The 2 seed, the Westman Wildcats, and the 3 seed, the Eastman Selects. Team that Eastman just had trouble with all season long. Westman, proven their championship potential in that series. They'll be going up against a different beast, though, in the Winnipeg Ice. Winnipeg back into the finals for not only a 3rd straight season, but a 4th straight year, as they had made it back in 2019-2020 when the whole world shut down, and we didn't get to see what was an all-Winnipeg finals at the time. But it's part 3, Westman versus Winnipeg. Before we get into just showing you some quick stats as we near the end of this episode, I want to show you the points leaders. So for the Yellowhead Chiefs, even though they got swept in round number two in the Final Four against the Ice. I mean, Maya McGregor and Hannah Ray having great postseasons. For Hannah Ray, this being her graduating year, her being the captain, tough for her to go out, of course, in a sweep, but left her mark. Believe she led in assists too in that up until this point in the playoffs. So congratulations to her. Stephanie Jacob, though, don't be surprised if we see her at the top of the point leaderboard when it's all said and done here in the playoffs. She's looking for that playoff MVP, but more importantly, a championship, I think, for the rest of this Winnipeg Ice team. Brienne Compte also on the list. And hey, there's Sophia Heidinger. 8 points in 8 games played. Really consistent, really good for Eastman in these playoffs. As for the goals leaders, well, it's Jacob tied with Maya McGregor. Who else? I mean, Jacob has been a goal monster this season, really throughout her whole career in the MFHL. From her very start in the rookie year in 2021-2022. McGregor, though, tied with her with 2 more games played, 6 goals. Marley Rutherford has been really good for Westman. So much depth on this team that, you kind of forget that there's not only players like Goods and the defenseman that could score in round one. I mean, Ivy Perkin came through huge in that semifinal round. But yeah, Marley Rutherford quietly having herself a really good, successful postseason. Abigail Briggs still there in the top 5. She was out in round 1. Carlin Goods, of course, you can see there on the board as well. But as for the assist leaders, Hannah Ray, no one seems to be close to catching her except for Annika Russell, still in the playoffs. Brienne Compte, 3 assists behind her as well. Ginger Fast finishing tied with Russell for second at this point in assists in the postseason. So yeah, going to be an interesting race to see who catches her. Money would have to be on Russell probably at this point, just given that she's so close. But who knows? It could be Brienne Compte as well, or maybe someone else from the Ice, or maybe even the Westman Wildcats. We'll have to wait and see. But as for the goaltenders, these are going to be, as you can see, the top 2 in wins right now. Probably the goalies that will be playing in all games this postseason. I'm not sure if we see Kylie Hack again. But yeah, I mean, she's one of the goaltenders who has a shutout, even though it's not marked at this point. But yeah, Danica Averill and Laura Melissa. I mentioned Melissa earlier. Look at that stat line. She's been phenomenal, especially in that second round. A 9.52 save percentage up until this point. Undefeated still. Meanwhile, Danica Averill, 9.15 save percentage. Will be looking to boost that. No shutouts up until this point, but she's been pretty good so far. Very good making the save she's needed to in this postseason up until this point. And yeah, I mean, finals for this league starts off on Wednesday night. 7:15 p.m. at the Scotiabank Hockey for All Center. G-Show Productions, myself, Graham the G-Show Forsyth. Can't wait to be there to be calling all the action for Games 1 and 3 of that series. When me and Ferdy Nelson had talked about this series in our MFHL playoff preview show, he went with the Winnipeg Ice. I went with the Westman Wildcats. Honestly, up until this day, I still think it is a toss-up. You know, both of these teams I feel like are going to be bringing their best. Both of these teams have phenomenal depth that's been showcased throughout the postseason up until this point. The X factor for the Ice is obviously always going to be Stephanie Jacob, but I think this is going to be the toughest test that their defense has faced all postseason long and all season long at this. I think that the Westman Wildcats, this is a team that, got their first loss out of the way and responded very strongly, especially in Hartney Arena. Now, the one disadvantage for Westman is that this series, home ice advantage, is going to go to the Ice. So I think coming up, game 2 and 3 could be very crucial in determining this series, with it being on a back-to-back. Winnipeg has to travel out to Westman on the Saturday, and then Westman has to travel out to Winnipeg the next day, right, to play. So that is going to be huge for sure. Game 1 is going to be really big too in this series. I mean, every game in this best of 5 is going to be so important because of how good these two teams are. If you give one of them an advantage, they could run away with it, but maybe not at the same time. I see both these teams responding to the punches. It's going to be a heavyweight bout coming up. These are two teams that have shown that they can get physical with each other, play within the rules of female playoff hockey. And yeah, if you take a look at the statistics for these teams in terms of offense, pretty much identical in terms of the offense that they've put up. Discipline wise, Westman's taken only one more penalty in terms of minutes than this Winnipeg Ice team. This Westman Wildcats power play is fantastic and dangerous. So is the Winnipeg Ices. And in terms of defensively, well, Westman has given up more goals against, but look at those shots. I mean, through 7 games played, they've only gave up, just a bit more than the Central Plains Capitals. Maybe not the best example, but still. You look at their numbers compared to teams that have played the same amount of games, much better than the Selects in terms of shots against, giving up the same amount of goals against. But as for the Winnipeg Ice, they've given up the least shots against out of all the teams left, and that defense has been phenomenal for that team. So yeah, I'd say that the biggest intrigue in this series is going to be, can the Winnipeg Ice keep it up against what's going to be their toughest opponent yet, I think. And for the Westman Wildcats, is that can we get off to the fast start by scoring first and establishing a lead? And can we find a way to break through a really great Winnipeg Ice defense that's been so darn good, so darn smothering all season long, and has limited even the best of opponents in shots this year? One last thing I want to talk about before we end off is the captains. The captains in this series are going to be really entertaining to watch. And first of all, the Westman Wildcats, Kelsey Hybers has just blown me away with her skill with the puck this season. Not the biggest player, but a player that utilizes her skills very well. She's speed, moves like a water bug, it seems, on the ice. The dangles have been there all postseason long. She likes to get fancy, but it's calculated when she's making her movement, right? She's not just making dangle to dangle. She's doing that to try to eliminate the defender and get past to make another play to open up space for herself. She's really good in the corners. And look, they don't just got her, but they got players like an Ivy Perkin, Marley Rutherford. You're talking about Carlin Goods. Like, Kelsey Hybers, it's going to be really interesting to see how the Eugene Kaminsky and this Ice team plays, or considering the fact that, this team has other players that can score. Then you look at the team captain for the Winnipeg Ice, who obviously the offense has run through her, but we've seen more depth come through for this Winnipeg Ice team. Stephanie Jacob is looking to have and complete one of the greatest seasons, possibly the greatest season in MFHL history. It would be up there for sure. I'm not sure if it would be the greatest, but one of the best in recent times. She's won the top forward in the league. She's won league MVP. She's won the top scorer. And if the Ice are able to come through, she's on track to having the most points in the playoffs, the most goals. Wouldn't be a surprise to me if they gave her MVP. She's looking to leave her stamp, as this will be her final series in her MFHL career, as, undeniably the greatest player in Winnipeg Ice history. I already think she is. You just look at the history and what she's been able to do, and yeah, we're going to see the best player in the league, the MVP, possibly elevate her game to that next level, which is pretty scary, all things considered, and in what she's done this year. But yeah, it's going to do it for this edition of the MFHL podcast, everybody. Look at the time, 18 minutes away from the MMJHL podcast, which is coming out soon. I'm going to go rest my voice here for a bit, though, before I start off. Thank you for tuning into this one, everybody. It's been a lot of fun. Be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future uploads of this podcast and MFHL content here on the network. Of course, we're down to 2 teams. 2 teams remain out of 8 that came into these playoffs. Game number 1 goes on Wednesday night. Hockey for All Center, 7:15 p.m. Puck drop. Be sure to tune in on gshow.ca. We'll also have you covered in broadcasting game number 3 of that series on Sunday night next week. At I believe 7 p.m. Check MFHL U18 AAA.com for more details. We'll be back for episode 17 of the MFHL podcast coming out on Wednesday night with guests from around the league, hoping to get possibly the 2 coaches on, maybe once again. Maybe some players from the Winnipeg Ice Westman Wildcats. Stay up to date with the details coming out. That will be showing on our website, gshow.ca, and on our social media platforms, most likely Instagram primarily, for our details for the next episode. But thank you to goaltenders Terrico and McKen Fasteners and Tools for sponsoring another edition of the MFHL podcast. It was great to be back, everybody. We'll see you on Wednesday as we get back into our normal podcast and routine here as the end of the female hockey season slowly comes to an end here very soon. Kind of don't want it to go, but can't wait to be a part of all this great coverage coming up in championship season, everybody. Myself, Graham, the G Show, Forsyth, wishes you all a wonderful rest of your Sunday, wonderful rest of your weekend, a great week coming up ahead with, safety. Hope you guys stay safe out there. I'll give you the salute. Peace out and saying so long, everybody. Take care. See you guys on Wednesday. Bye, everybody.